Hey everybody, how's it going? It is Annette the Peacemaker from the Yang Gang Report Live, YGRL. And with me today, I've got my little brother, Mikey the Jester. And Mikey's been really busy for a long time, and he hasn't had a chance to get on the screen with anybody. And today we have that chance. And Mikey and I talk to each other a lot. And like we've just been going like through some heavy stuff, okay, like some real heavy stuff, and basically we just wanted to have a conversation about it and share some of this heavy stuff with the people, so maybe it'll make you feel better in some kind of way about like your own heavy stuff, Mikey, I named this episode "He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother." He ain't heavy, he's my brother. So let's back up a little bit. So recently Mikey and I lost someone that we also called our brother. He was a very dear friend of mine for some like 25 years, something like that, a really long time. And he was a new friend to Mikey, but they became really close really quickly, right? And his name was Davey. And so we just kind of want to talk about that a little bit, like how the grieving process has been going. So I'll let you talk for a minute now, Mikey. So how's that grieving process going for you?
It's a little surreal, I'm still in shock. I'm not sure if it's been a week or 2 weeks. I'm really bad.
Yeah, I think it's only been like 2 weeks. I mean,
it just feels like something you just don't want to believe. It just feels like you could still call him.
Yeah, that's one of the steps in the grieving process is disbelief. Like you just can't even believe that it happened. Have you experienced a lot of loss in your life? Like, have you had a lot of people in your family or around you die?
The most major, the most significant death in my family was when my grandmother died. I believe that's what's really split my family. I forgot a family.
It split your family up, huh?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's money issues. There's whose fault is it issues. There's I feel like my whole life changed after and let's just talk in 10 years ago. I was way back 2010. But that was the most significant death in my life. This year was probably the most overwhelming because I've lost a lot of close friends back to back. People I would see every day in the morning. People I would call every day, like you and Davey. We would hang out all day, all night, just talking. This is how we would communicate. Not just during the pandemic. We've been doing this since last year. With technology, this has been a very nice tool for the Yang Gang, and the Yang Gang learned early on how to use this wonderful tool, Zoom and StreamYard and everything. Yeah, people like you says I can call my sister. I've never met you in my life, but I trust you so much. I mean, I trust you so much, sister. I could tell anybody anything. It's you and a handful of people maybe, but you're definitely one of them.
Yeah. Same with me. I was just having a conversation with Ray last night about that. I've got very serious trust issues and serious abandonment issues that stem from like when I was an infant, basically. Like I've always had these issues, because I was abandoned. Literally, as an infant, I was abandoned by my biological father before I was a year old. And so like it started young and not much younger than that, you know? And then, so therefore, like my trust, anyway, that's what I was just saying last night. I was able to count like about 5 people that I trust. That was it. Like, and I had to work. I struggled to name those 5 people, and you were definitely one of them. Like, I don't think you would ever hurt me or leave me intentionally or anything like that, you know? So yeah, I'm glad that I know you, and I'm glad. So, and then this kind of leads into our another thing that we've been talking about. Like I'm so glad that I joined the Yang Gang, and I met so many people, right? Like we have engaged with some of the most amazing people that I have grown to love and admire as if I know them like in real life. Like this is now our real life, Mikey, right? This right here, what we are doing now, this is now our real life. This is the new real life. And, you know, so like we've made some really great friends. We've got Faye and Quintus and Ariel, and, you know, like I feel really, truly, like genuinely connected to these people through the Yang Gang.
Yeah.
And then, but then since Yang has dropped out, I know you've noticed it too. We have noticed that the Yang Gang is like starting to kind of splinter and fall apart, and we're going against each other and like unfriending each other, and
It's so confusing. It's for someone who's
teams are like falling apart. Teams are like disintegrating. Teams that work together for like every day for a year, and then now they aren't even speaking to each other.
Yeah.
And it's really just heartbreaking, you know?
I mean, if, I'm someone who's never really been into politics until Yang came along. I mean, I voted for Bernie way back when, this is 2016, but Yang was what really got me into wanting to learn about politics and actually do something about it, not just, oh, I like this guy, I'm a vote, you know.
Right.
Really, really inspired me. It really made me feel like the future is ours. And at this moment, it's far from that. And, it's just shocking, sis. Shocking what's going on. Um, I, yeah, friends and the Yang Gang, and we are. I got friends fighting with my other friends, and it's just it's shocking because you don't know what's real anymore. So I'm trying to listen to both sides. I mean, I don't want to hate on my Trump voting friends because I care about everybody, you know, and
Right.
listening to both sides on what's going on, especially on major issues. It's very overwhelming. Sometimes you just don't want to be part of it, and I'm guilty of saying this, but sometimes I take a break when things are too difficult, and this is one of those times. And
Yeah. I feel like an overwhelming sense of heaviness and impending doom, you know?
yeah,
And so like I just am waiting for everything to just like either blow up or just disintegrate and crumble, you know? It's like it, I don't know. And I know that's not a very positive way to think, but like the one mutual friend that you and I have, that we are, what's the word I want to use? In the movies they say estranged. We are estranged from this friend. And we used to be really, really tight with this friend. And we used to talk to each other all the time. And we worked together and we had really big dreams and we had goals and we worked together well as like a cohesive team. And watching that disintegrate to the point that we're not on speaking terms is really heartbreaking, you know? And then like I've unfriended some other people that like, wow, I didn't know you were a racist bigot all this time. Had I known, we wouldn't have been friends, you know? Like, so there are some really icky people kind of floating around out there that, like, it just makes me wonder if any of it was real or what was real and what wasn't, and what are our true friends, and like which relationships are real and genuine and true.
It's they rob you of your time, your life. Sometimes other people who are close to you deserve it more, you know. And
look at so Jewel just said, she said that she's still here being a Yang Gang. I know you are. There's still lots of us out there still doing Yang Gang stuff, you know, but it's maybe just in our own little tiny bubble, things are amiss right now. And I'm not sure if we'll ever get back to that original cohesiveness or not, you know, but like, it's really making me depressed. It's really affecting my mental health. And then here, look at what Ching says, that she's working on a feature documentary, Yang Gang Inspiration now. Oh my goodness, that'd be awesome. I have 5,000 minutes of footage from the last 15 months. That's amazing. That is amazing. And then
we all have our own stories to tell.
We do.
We all have our own version.
We do. And then also she says that your audio could be a little bit louder.
I'm sorry. I just have a phone.
No worries.
Like Russell Yang Gang says, broke folk vote.
Vote. So since Ching brought up the word inspiration, like, do you feel like you've lost some of your inspiration, your motivation?
I definitely feel
like I'm having a real hard time yanging people now. I'm just like, meh.
Yeah, I mean, I've lost all my motivation to do anything.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of my hope for the future. Although it's getting better. Hello, Brian. Arizona in the house. Woot woot. I was like really, really hopeless and like really in the dark place for a while there. But you know, now that I am seeing that Yang is definitely going to be active in a Biden administration, and I see that he is still out there, still just doing. He's still yanging. He's still yanging people left and right. Just this morning, my husband watches this guy who tracks all the stimulus bills, okay? And he gives us the lowdown on what's going on with the next stimulus package or whatever. And this guy just today was saying he mentioned Andrew Yang. And Ray's been watching this guy for a while. So he brought up Yang's name and he quoted Yang about how it was a Yang tweet about something about how the not passing the stimulus at this point is just pure politics and something like that. Anyway, I was excited, you know, so like his name is becoming more and more, it just needs to get bigger. But what I would like to know, I really wish I could have gotten like a mental health professional to join us. I'm angry all the time. Okay. So like a lot of my depression translates into anger. And I have like an underlying seething, like all the time. I might have a smile on my face and I might be able to present myself in such a way. And I learned how to do that when I was in high school, when I was a cheerleader, and I literally call it my cheerleader face. And it's my performance face. And I put it on a lot. But like,
that's my sales.
And then I'll be like angry for so long and just like clenched up. And then it turns to sadness. Then I have like a meltdown of just like crying, and I just can't stop crying. And it's like everything all around us. It's not any one thing. It's like, all this external stuff. And it just infuriates me. And then like all the racism and all the police brutality and all the injustice and all the poverty and all the sick people, dude, we've got at the very least, we've got like 3 or 4 friends that have cancer right now.
Yeah. One of them I plan on taking care of. He doesn't have any family here. All his family lives in a different state.
Somewhere else.
Yeah, he helped me when I had a surgery and everything. So
I am really glad that you were there for your friend who is sick right now, who doesn't have family. And this is something that we need to be doing, is like reaching out and trying to build community. But it's so hard to build that, like build these families and build this community while the rest of society is just like enraged on all fronts.
Yeah. I think we are more.
Okay, here we go. Before. Brian has left a couple of comments I'm going to put up here. I'm super stoked for the future because Yang is still super relevant and is on Biden's team. If Biden wins, this is a huge step forward for the Yang gang. I agree with you, Brian. And Mikey and I both had a really hard, I don't know where Mikey is. I'll speak for myself right in this next statement. It has been very difficult for me to come to this place where I will vote for Biden to get to Yang. Like I was adamantly against Biden. But I also think that some of the misgivings that I have about Kamala Harris and some of my mistrust for her based on past behavior, I guess. I'm trying to be really nice and like I'm trying not to be catty or petty. Okay. Yeah. So like I'm trying really hard with her proposing that $2,000 a month pandemic relief bill. Like that shows me that she is much, much closer to being open to UBI. And if we can get her to be open to UBI, then she will be able to influence Biden to be open to UBI. And then, like, I feel like it's like maybe not this close, but, like we got a foot in the door. I feel like we've got a foot in the door. All right.
Yeah.
And then, Brian, I'm going to go back to your one with the little heart emoji in a minute. So then, because this is relevant to what we're talking about now. It was hard until I listened to Yang's reasons. Even after listening to Yang's reasons, I still fought it really hard. I still fought hard against it. Like, ugh! And I was still voting Yang for a really long time. And now, I mean, it's fine. It's like whatever, right? And
Yeah.
Yang does know the way. And I have to try to have faith in Yang and hope that he would not, we have to believe that he's not going to lead us down a dangerous path. Okay. So there's that part. So I am feeling less like sad or less emotional about the election. And I'm not focused on all that drama as I was before. But I'm trying to change my focus to other things, like trying to find positive things. They just don't exist. Like, I can't find anything. Like, I get stuck in YouTube watching like those primitive builders, like they dig out swimming pools with like a stick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? I love those videos. And so I will get lost in those videos to try to change my focus, because like the politics and the Trump stuff and all the vote shaming is still going on, constantly going on. I'm just so tired of it.
I mean,
get back to nature. Yes, Brian. So we live on a 5-acre ranch down here in southern Arizona, Brian. And unfortunately, it is too goddamn hot for us to go outside like in the daytime. So I have a hard time getting out in that heat. It kind of tears us up a little bit, but we were actually very active this weekend and really got to do some social activities and just small little, just small little things with a couple of people around. But it felt really good just to be around like other humans outside of my own household.
so excited for the future, I guess.
Brian just went on a camping trip. Do you guys go camping ever, Mikey? You and Glenn ever go camping?
We went one time. It was near Yosemite. We got lost somewhere, and we just like, you know what? We're just gonna camp right here, and it ended up being a really nice camping trip.
Oh, he went to the Arizona White Mountains, nice and cool. All right, Jacqueline would like to join us, Mikey.
Oh, I miss Jacqueline.
Don't come in hot, Jacqueline, all right? Like, we're trying to be mellow and stuff. So getting out to nature, that's one good way for us to try to relax. I'm having a hard time finding things that I enjoy, like things to do for fun. Like I'm not even motivated to like, I have like a dang library right freaking behind me. And like, I've lost my motivation. So, oh, good.
I've been reading books again because it's if you go to like the thrift store, you can get them for really cheap.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I can read like a page at a time. Okay, here's Jacqueline. Everybody, this is Jacqueline from 99 Reasons. And she has been a guest on our show for, I don't know, many, many times. And then, but before, I just want to put up, Grace just said this nice thing right here, that she wants to thank me for being beside me through my struggles right now. So far, you are the only one that comments on my post and keeps my hopes up. Okay, so Grace, I know, like, okay, so it's breaking my heart, right? So our friend Grace is going through, and Jacqueline are going through extreme hard times. Extreme hard times. You guys, like, you cannot freaking imagine. And I get angry. First, I get sad because I am not in any kind of financial position, nor am I close enough, like in proximity. These two women live on opposite sides of the country from me and nowhere near me. It's not like I can like go to their house and help them do things. I can't do any of those things. So me and my savior complex has a really hard time dealing with the fact that I can't go help these people that I care very deeply for. And so then I have this internal battle that goes on all the time. And all I can do is like say words. That's it. Like, that's all I can do is support you guys. And it breaks my heart that that's all I can do. But like, there was a time when Yang Gang was so tight that all we had to do is just say one thing and everybody jumped on to help the people. And that's not happening. And I have a feeling that that's maybe what Jacqueline might want to talk about today. But welcome, my dear. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, can't hear you, Jacqueline.
Yep, you're muted, honey. You're muted, honey. I can't hear you. Oh. Try again. I see that you got a new fancy. I have one of those fancy microphone things too. Ooh.
Okay, you should be able to hear me now, right?
There we go.
Yep. Okay. For some reason, StreamYard was not liking the new mic, and I wanted to give a shout out to Nate Lewis, otherwise known as Nate Lewis Van Dyke, who's a fellow Yang Gang person and friend. He came through as an angel out of fucking nowhere. Like, you know, when I thought there was nobody in Yang Gang that cared anymore, well, I found out there was like one or two or four who do care and who are trying to help. And one of the things he did to help was he sent me a microphone with a filter and a mic stand so that I could do podcasts, so that I could rebut being a voice for UBI, so that I could rebut all the anti-Yang, anti-UBI schmucks that have been harassing Yang Gang mercilessly on Twitter lately. And the most recent incident was with this nitwit who really must have an ass ton of privilege that they could spend a full 2 days on Twitter harassing our friends and calling a friend of mine, Angelo. I think you know Angelo Mendoza.
Angelo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Calling him a fascist and accused him of being a liar. That was it. Final straw. I was like, you know what? I don't care if I'm not attractive looking and young and typical YouTuber material. I don't give a fuck if people see how poor and fucked up I gotta live without even enough room to set up a goddamn fake ass green screen behind my ass. I'm getting on and I'm using my anger and my voice to defend my friends, to defend not just my friends, but to defend everything that we have been fighting for. UBI, you know? And I took this, I'm off the floor with this cretin. First podcast. I went through, I couldn't figure out how to get the thing to scroll because like I was struggling with Streamlabs and I couldn't figure out how to get the browser to scroll in the software so that the viewership on YouTube would be able to see exactly. I'm trying to dial it back. I'm trying to be a good girl because he told me not to get hot. So I'm going to leave out about assholes who are living proof that you can get pregnant from anal sex and all that other shit.
Oh my gosh.
But this was an asshole. So they couldn't see, I couldn't scroll the thing. I couldn't figure out how to get the Twitter thread to scroll on the Streamlab so that the viewership could see who I was rebutting. So I read the tweets that I was rebutting and then rebutted the tweets to this person who, I mean, we're talking, they spent, I guess 2 days now, and that thread is still going. You know, and he was, insisting on how UBI was bad, it would hurt the poor, and the only solution to our crisis, or I should say crises, because it's actually multiple crises at once. We got the pandemic, we got the economic fallout, we've got the acceleration of automation at hyperspace. And I just went through and did a blow by blow because Nate says, you know what? He goes, this is how you can use that anger for good, is to channel that anger in a way to, And so my first one, and I actually was kind of tame, and you know how I am. So if you pop over to my Facebook page, I have it on a status post. So click on the link there.
Oh, I saw that earlier, but
yeah.
I'm just dragging my ass today. Ray made me go back to bed today because he's like, you look like you're about to pass out. Just don't do this podcast. Go sleep. Okay.
Well,
okay.
Anyway, so I dressed down this guy because it's like, you know what? That the people that don't want a UBI and don't want help for the poor, help for the sick, help for all the people that will never have jobs to go back to, who are the new poor. Okay. They're not going to read an anthology of encyclopedia length posts on Twitter. But when you put something like a rebuttal on a podcast on YouTube and you put it out there for the whole freaking internet to see, it might be long, but it's a lot less time consuming to hear that and listen to that or watch that than it would be to read through an entire.
So do you want me to put it up on the screen for a little bit? Do you want us to look at it?
If you'd like. I mean, I don't. It depends on what you and Mikey wanted to do. But I wanted to just share the good news with you that, Angelo, he was really there for me too, and he talked me back from a really dark place. I'll be honest with you, I had thoughts about eating a bull a couple times. Actually, I was looking at the rope hanging over slinging a rope over one of the rafters in the attic because that started to look pretty inviting to me too. And and
yes.
Angelo and Nate, and Harry, my only patron left anymore, talked me down. Because I started to think Donnie will be better off without me, and because he can't even.
I know you said those things to me. You told me to just forget about you already. Just forget about me already.
Yeah,
and I'm like, nope, not gonna happen. So you're not the first person. Another friend of mine is going through a mental health crisis right now, and that friend, about a month ago, was putting suicidal stuff up on Facebook, and it was really, really frightening. This person. also doesn't want to accept any help either. So I'm just like,
this is one
shit.
of the things that guy who was like anti-UBI and pro jobs guarantee was saying, that the reason people are suicidal is because of not having what he called socially valuable jobs. And it's like, no, people are threatening to commit suicide because they don't have any hope to have a good life.
Right.
You know, that's why people start thinking about checking the fuck out of this popcorn stand. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what my rebuttal is. If you want to look at part of it, that's cool, but it's pretty long. So I don't expect you to play the whole
I see how long it is. I have it open on my other screen right now.
Yeah. But it's like I begin with apologizing to the viewership because I didn't know how to figure out how to get the fucking thing to scroll. And then I would have to read the tweets that I was rebutting on the cuff. This is like this was not rehearsed. This was like right off the top of my fucking head while I was doing it.
That's the best way to do it, I think. I kind of like just going live like randomly. And let's just talk about this, you know, like our buddy Devin was talking about, like he was talking about some of the numbers, like 60% of the people that lost their jobs due to COVID are not going to get their jobs back.
Correct. And there's also before COVID, 700 Americans died from poverty every fucking day before COVID. That was before COVID. And, you know, and I got into that a little bit later on in the podcast. So when you want to watch the whole thing through at some point.
Yeah.
But if you skip past the part where I'm initially apologizing, like to the viewership for not being tech savvy and knowing how to get the Streamlabs thing to scroll through the tweet thread that I was rebutting, and skip to like a minute into it where I start addressing this guy because he was basically what really prompted this. And I you know what? I would have never had the guts to even do this because I always felt self-conscious. I'm like, you know, I'm not young. I'm not attractive looking. I'm living in a cluttered up sty because I'm fucking poor and all my shit is down here in one room. And I don't even have room behind me to set up a green screen to have. I don't even have 6 inches of space to do that. I have no room. And because you know,
your roof is caving in.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't know you, Jacqueline lives in a 2-story home, and the roof of her second story is like caving in, and so she has to have all of her stuff downstairs in the living room where she's sitting now. And that's why there's so much stuff behind her.
Living room and dining room and kitchen.
Yep. See, and I've never seen anything beyond what I see right now. That's always the backdrop that I see when I talk to you. So I don't even know what the rest of it looks like.
And I have a toilet that you can't flush except by filling up buckets of water in the bathtub. The toilet don't work. So, I mean, this is how I'm flushing the toilet. Could be worse. I could be homeless and not have a toilet, not have a rigged up shower for personal hygiene, which is extremely important when you're diabetic and you don't have you have no immune to infections and weird shit from hygiene problems. So, I mean, there's that. But I just wanted to share with you a little bit of the fact that, you know, I did rebut this guy who, and I'm assuming it was a dude because Bernie Bros was a term coined for a reason.
Right.
And we don't need to go through a basic math lesson of adding 2 and 2 to get 4. Everybody knows that, right? So I'm going to assume this person was a dude. That I was, you know, the one who called Angelo a fascist. Yeah, I'm off the fucking floor with his ass. He's probably going to rebut to me in some fancy schmancy fucking video comeback. But I'm prepared for that too because I've got the facts to blow it apart. To just say, hey, look, you know, I've been there, done that. I've seen how this works, and this is how this plays out, and this is why, you know, no, your job guarantee thing is not tenable. It's not sustainable. You know, but UBI is, you know, But if you want to check out a few, go in a minute or two into the video, go in about a minute and check out what I start. What button this guy? And I want to give a shout out to Nate Lewis and Angelo Mendoza.
Yeah,
I
I don't know Nate, but I do know Angelo, and he is definitely good people, and he's a good one to have in your corner for sure.
Well, the thing is, Angelo and I became really tight friends too, and it's like, it would be like if somebody started insulting you, like I know you really well. If somebody started accusing you of being a fascist, I would be all over them like a fucking coat, man.
Right.
I mean, I'm like stink on shit and white on rice. Yeah. Oh fuck yeah. I would be same deal with when like Yang Gang Russ and his wife Elisa were being attacked by the fucking Bernie Bros. I just don't. I mean, it's just I wasn't going to put up with the stupidness. So check out a few minutes of it.
Okay.
I educated him.
Sometimes,
Oops.
like a very, very small handful of organizations.
No.
Because people.
I think we all know that voice.
Yes.
I am playing it so you get the view, so you get the viewership. So I'm just letting it play through right now, but I'm not going to listen to it right now because we're doing this. Okay. So, but yeah, I'm letting it play through so you get the view numbers.
Now that, by the way, Nate had since then showed me how to get the thing to scroll in Streamlabs so that if I have to do this again, I know how to do it so I can scroll through it and the readership can see, what I'm responding to.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have no fear anymore. Because you know what matters more than being aesthetically pleasing to look at and having a professional looking YouTube studio set up? Standing on the fucking truth. Because when the truth is all you've got, but you were standing 100% on that truth, that can be the most powerful thing you got. When you were just talking to Mikey saying, all I have is my words, let me tell you something about words. Words are pretty fucking powerful. Words are powerful. Don't ever underestimate the power of language and power of words.
Yes, this is also something. So, like, I've been having almost like a weekend-long therapy session with a good friend of mine here, and she is older and wiser than me in a variety of ways, and she's really been listening to me and kind of helping me break down some of my shit in my head, and I do have a lot of anger. I have like some very serious anger issues, and then that turned. See, I'm about to cry, right? So it like wells up. Go ahead.
That anger is that part of you that loves you, that says that injustice and suffering is not okay, that the mistreatment that you might have been exposed to is not okay, that, that it's that part of you that loves you that says this shit is not right and I deserve better, and so do all my loved ones and friends. It's okay to be angry, and it's okay to express that anger. What Nate was like helping me do was find a channel to express it in a way that's constructive. In other words, direct that anger at the people who need to have their ass reamed out so fucking thoroughly they'll never need a fucking colonoscopy if they live to be a fucking 100. No, I'm not going to excuse my French. So just bear that in mind, Words can be
right.
powerful.
And so what I was going to say with that is that part of my anger and sadness is the loss of someone very, very close to my husband and I that
Davey?
no,
Not Davy?
no, someone that used to live with us that doesn't now.
Oh, God.
And yeah, and so the breakdown happened. Like the gist of the breakdown was this person's inability to communicate, and just sat there in silence because they were not able to express themselves using language. Even like the most simple, most remedial, lowest level language, like just like use your words, speak words out loud, please. Like talk to me, please. And then the more they sat there, the longer they sat there in silence, looking down at the floor, the more infuriated I became. And then it turned into a blowout that resulted in, you just need to get your shit and go. And then, so that happened a year ago. And I have been carrying this, like, we love this person very much. And I was like, I'm still like in deep, deep pain over it. And like that, it just makes me angry. First I get angry, like I was angry when I first started talking about it, and now I'm just sad. Like I feel terrible, and I take all the blame myself. Like I'm the bad guy. I'm the one that told them to go, and I'm the one that blew up and all that, you know?
Not everybody is able to verbally communicate very well while under stress. I don't. I shut down.
Right.
You know, and I know maybe
that's what happened.
And a lot of people are just not, and I don't have a problem with finding words. I have a problem with finding the right words when I'm extremely upset and under distress, in distress. That's why I sent you that thing about just forget about me. Because I was too upset to find the words that would have been the best way to communicate at the time. Because I suffer from some real justifiable and understandable anger issues. Except there was a time when instead of expressing my anger or my distress or fear, because it's not just anger that makes me go silent, it's fear, anxiety, depression, utter distress, despair. But there was a time when I would smash shit and I would smash people in the fucking face if they pushed me. So going from that to giving somebody the silent treatment, I'd say is a huge fucking improvement. Because I used to be very violent when I was young. Because violence was what I learned on the streets. I was trafficked from age 12 to 17. I think it's fair to say that it wasn't the Boy Scouts who did that.
Right.
And the violence that I was subjected to you know, that doesn't just, you don't just get over it once you've escaped that kind of a situation.
Right.
That's why I tell people, if you're a civilian, and when I say civilian, I mean somebody who is not a human trafficking survivor, you don't really understand survivors and what we've gone through and what we've had to live with for our entire lives, because it wasn't just the trafficking bit. It was the being thrown away and involuntarily economically excluded and socially excluded and completely marginalized and isolated for fucking life as punishment for shit that was done to us. Not for shit that we did wrong, for shit that was done to us. And there's a lot of people that cannot be verbal, even in a text post when they're upset. And I know that's hard for you to accept, but it's not anything against you when somebody shuts down and can't communicate with you at the moment. It's because they're struggling with some real fucking heavy burdens. And in my case, I went from being a very violent person to just shutting down and going radio silent. Because I know that when I get angry, even now I'm no longer, physical, because I'm physically disabled and I'm older and, I have health problems. I still have the ability that if I'm pressed, if I'm pushed, when I'm not emotionally in a space to be able to be verbal and I'm pushed, I will get very verbally cruel. And once you say things, you can't fucking unsay them. So if I go silent on friends, it's because I don't want to say something fucking cruel and hurtful that I won't be able to unsay, because I know how I am. I know what my faults are. And I might have made a hell of a lot of progress considering what I'd survived and lived through. But I know that I
feel that. I do that too. I can have a pretty sharp tongue.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Freddy Krueger wouldn't stand a fucking chance. Seriously, I mean, I'm not going to be. That's why it's like I have to, especially if somebody's pushing it and they're pushing my fucking buttons, and it's like, you don't want to do it, dude. You don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is something. Part of what we wanted to talk about today is how to deal with this anger, with this depression, this sadness, and things like that. So if anybody's watching, like Brian suggested, getting out to nature. I mean, that's a popular suggestion. If you're able to get outside and like,
I don't have a fucking car. You want to buy me one, Brian?
I'm going.
You can go sit in your yard.
Brian, you're number
Do you
one.
have a yard or a porch?
It's actually not safe. I live in a very unsafe neighborhood. We had a couple of home invasions attempts 3 weeks ago. Some crackheads kicked in and smashed out the window to the outside basement door that's access to the basement. And we don't even have the fucking power tools to fix that.
At your house?
Yeah. So I don't live in a safe area. There was a couple of murders, and because there's abandoned buildings all around where I live, it's not fucking safe to even go for a walk half a block. I don't have a car. I can't just fucking take off and go to some nice safe place.
Right.
And this home invasion, there was 2 attempts in the same week, happened in the middle of the fucking day. It was like at 2 p.m. The first time it was like 2 p.m, and the second time it was like around 11 o'clock in the morning. And the police, when I called them, they went to the neighbors because my place is so run down looking, they thought it was abandoned. And the neighbor, had to say, oh no, So, and it's like, I don't have even, a vehicle to go to Home Depot or Lowe's, which is, again, a trip clear across the county, to buy the materials to fix that, and buy the power tools. It's just, and it's also the cost of that stuff, So it's like, yeah, I don't have the ability to just go out and get, take a walk and go to nature. I don't live in an area where it's safe to go outside by yourself without without a gun and a fucking permit to carry concealed.
Yeah.
Because things have gotten that bad. Now, my neighborhood wasn't that bad 5 years ago or even 10 years ago.
I was going to ask that.
It wasn't that bad. This was actually a lower middle class area when I first met Donnie and we got married and I moved in here. I mean, it was not,
like that.
No. And it's like, man, the fuck, don't tell me, because I had to live with that crazy fucking insanity being homeless on the streets of Philly as a youth. And Philly is a city of, at the time when I left, it was 1.6 million people, and that was 20 years ago. And I come out here to a Rust Belt town that's like 1/10 the size of Philly, if not smaller than that. And it's like because of the poverty, and this idiot's talking about this job guarantee. It's like, that isn't going to help people who need to get out of a situation and move to a safer area and don't have the money to relocate. It's not going to help people who don't have a fucking car. It's not going to help people who have health problems and disabilities where they wouldn't be able to succeed at a job, even if it was a government guaranteed one, because there's a minimum level of resources you need to have in order to be able to succeed at any job. And if you have physical problems, well, that you can't work outside the home, which are similar to yours, right? Okay. What kind of fucking job would this job guarantee provide, right? So this guy is like running off with a bad case of verbal diarrhea, calling Angelo and other Yang Gang peeps that are friends of ours fascists and liars and saying that we're stupid. And I was like, call my friends fucking fascists. Will you? Huh? Be prepared to get J schooled, man. Because I wasn't going to have it. This was somebody who does not know what it is to not have safe, stable housing, to not have a car, and to have to try to jump through hoops from these so-called programs that leave you wanting to eat a bullet. Whether or not they even end up providing help.
I have an example of that. So we only get like $80 for, they just gave us a raise on our SNAP benefits, our food stamp card.
I wonder if I
got a raise to $99. Almost $100, but not quite.
I wonder if my state gave us a raise. Hold up.
So, okay.
No, we didn't get one, but that's okay because I don't have a car and I have difficulty getting rides to the store anyway.
Right.
And when you're diabetic, and I know like you're helping your mom who's diabetic, there's a lot of foods that are normal foods that diabetics can't have. And I'm not talking about the ice cream. That's the least noxious thing. I'm talking about regular bread, pasta, rice, baked beans. Things that are very, very high in natural sugars and natural carbs. There's a very limited fruits that you can have. So there's a lot of, it's not a cheap disease. And you can't just undiabetic yourself, right?
Right.
But
and then,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I want
no, that's okay, honey. So then we have to completely relearn everything, right? So if I'm the main cook in the family, I cook most often, I have to learn everything about, I have to become a nutritionist and a dietitian and a diabetic chef.
I did
and all of that. Right now.
Dude, I'll help you. I can help you with that because when I got sick with Crohn's, I had to keep a food diary. So it wasn't too hard for me to keep a food diary for diabetes for watching my blood sugar before I ran out of testing strips. So I know what foods I can have. Now, I can help with that. What your mom needs to eat is a lot of meats, fish. She can have potatoes in moderation. get her low carb bread. If there's a store out there that sells either the Sara Lee or the Pepperidge Farm 45 calorie, that is low carb, diabetic friendly bread. Yeah, it costs 3 times as much as the regular shit, but at least it's food that she can have. She's going to need to eat lots of meats. You need protein when you're diabetic. You need dairy when you're diabetic too. Now, in my case, because of the Crohn's, that's kind of complicated. I have to take enzymes so that I can consume the dairy. But eggs are great. Eggs are great. You know, bacon and eggs. Your mom can have that with impunity.
Huh.
Steaks, fish, chicken. You know, spaghetti with shirataki noodles. And there's only one place that I found I was able to source shirataki noodles, which are expensive as a motherfucker. But, you know, because being diabetic means, I don't know if your mom likes spaghetti or not, but having grown up in Philly and being more fluent in Sicilian than I am in Hebrew or Yiddish, which is funny as hell, considering I was raised Orthodox Jewish. I wasn't about to give up my Italian food and my occasional glass of wine, once in a blue moon wine. But I found that the perfect, it is the best substitute for regular pasta, but it's expensive as fuck. And that's the problem, is shirataki noodles. You can get them on Amazon, but like I said, they're expensive as fuck. That way your mom can still enjoy things like mac and cheese and spaghetti. With the spaghetti sauce, you're going to have to be very careful. A lot of the sauces that they have in the stores, it's the same with what they have in the pizzerias. I don't know what it is with American style spaghetti or marinara and pizza sauce that they put sugar in, but that's gross. I wasn't taught to make sauce that way, and I was taught how to cook by a couple of Sicilian bookies. You know, the guys that taught me how to trade.
I don't usually buy sauce, tomato sauce. I usually just use diced tomatoes.
Yeah, don't add sugar.
Like
anyway, there's a really good brand that's already made, and it's from scratch, and it is the closest thing to my homemade sauce, that the way I was taught how to make it by these old Sicilian dudes from Philly. And they didn't add no fucking sugar in it either. And that's what you want. You want the shit that has no sugar in it. It's called Rao's, R-A-O. It's a little bit pricey, but it's stuff that she can have. When it comes to snack foods, there are potato chips that there are some that will spike your blood sugar, and then there's 2 brands that won't, because how the potato chips are cooked actually matters. The potato chips that are cooked in lard, which is Goods or Gibbles, both of which are made in Pennsylvania, by the way. Yay! We're good for something, huh? Right? You can actually get Goods potato chips shipped to you from Amazon, and you can order from Gibbles online and have them ship it direct. You know, Gibbles potato chips are the fucking best thing. Man, your mom can snack on those, and those will not spike her blood sugar. Won't even budge. And
I know that Amazon did just start accepting. I sent you that message, and you weren't in the mood to hear it that day, but they do. From what I heard, what I heard was that my husband saw that Amazon is now taking EBT, food stamps, SNAP, whatever you want to call them. They are now taking
not for the diabetic friendly foods that I need to have. It's only certain foods.
It's only certain foods.
It's only certain foods, and it's the cheap, high starch, high fucking sugar shit that I can't fucking have. And boy, do I get sick and tired of having to repeat myself to explain that to fucking people when there's over 30 million diabetics in America. It's not like this is a rare fucking problem.
Well, I didn't look at it myself, so I didn't know what it covered. He gave me that information, and I was like, oh, that might be helpful for Jacqueline. So I passed on the information.
Because I can't have any of the shit that the EBT card is accepted on Amazon for. It's only a few certain types of foods, and it's all shit that I can have.
I see.
As a diabetic. So it's like when my neighbor can run me to the store, I will get to use my food stamps. If not, I got to hope I have enough Patreon supporters or angels dropping an occasional few bucks into my PayPal or Cash App so I can buy fucking food to take my insulin. You know, I mean, you know, it's not like you can just undiabetic yourself and, you know, that's like for the rest of your life. Your fucking diet is changed permanently. You know.
I've been watching a bunch of keto videos on YouTube.
Does your mom like coffee?
Yeah.
Instead of the fake ass coffee creamer, which can kind of wreak havoc on blood sugar, stick with half and half or light cream, because there's a lot less sugar in it than there is in whole milk, but it's got that buttery sweetness, you know, like light cream. And that with coffee is very good. Another good beverage is Irish breakfast tea. Whew, that'll give you a punch in the fucking pants and make you want to do the hula hula dance first thing in the fucking morning. Oh yeah, buddy. Caffeined out the yang yin yang. So it's like, you know, there's a lot of stuff, but it's like, just be prepared that, you know, for the rest of your mom's life, this is how meals are going to have to be prepared for her.
Right.
And meals are going to have to be prepared to be inclusive so that she doesn't feel isolated because she's the one with the problem.
No, I'm not cooking two separate meals. We are all going to eat the same food.
Yep, you're all going to have to manage the diabetes together. Now, I'm lucky. It's just me and Donnie, and it's easier for me to do that. Plus, whether Donnie likes it or not, I'm the fucking cook, and he either eats what I make or I'm going to whoop his ass because he knows that I make healthy food. He is not going to live off fucking McDog foods like he was when I met him. He was literally living off of Big Macs. I'm sorry. Dude, ever since I got food poisoning from McDog foods 30 years ago, twice, got food poisoning. It's like,
all right, well, let's try to bring this back around. Let's see. We have been going just over an hour now.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what are some words of inspiration, either from the viewers or words of advice for people who are angry, depressed, frustrated? How do you all handle it? And we've already covered going out to nature. So I guess maybe I just kind of want to try to, I don't know how, we didn't really have like a plan. We really just wanted to like talk about some stuff and give people like a chance to talk about depression. And it seems to me, you know what I mean? Here's what it is. All roads lead to UBI. Universal basic income is honestly like the answer, right?
It's insane.
That's what it all boils down to. Yang was right. Universal basic income is it, because we would all have the money to move to a new location if we wanted to, renovate our homes if we want to do that.
Save
what
up
else?
For
buy and afford maintenance on vehicles. Like we've got we have two cars that we can't drive because just like we can only like nickel and dime it, and one of them is car parts, and we can only afford to order like a couple parts at a time, and the other one is like a licensing issue, and COVID, you can't just go in and just get license plates, you know. You can't just walk in and get license plates. So that is like this huge giant hassle. So we've got two vehicles that we can't even drive. And here's you with
no fucking car,
no vehicle, And so that's a factor, man. Like everybody might just say, well, yeah, dude, just go get a car. Or even if somebody donated a car to you, even if somebody gave you a car, the maintenance and licensing and all of that stuff,
mandatory auto insurance,
gas, you know, just to own the car costs more money. So UBI would cover that.
Yeah, and we just got slapped with an unexpected shit sandwich with this whole life policy that my husband had since we got married. In fact, when we got married, I actually tried to talk to him about this. I said, look, the premiums on that, if we put that in the Washington Mutual Investors Fund, which is like my favorite mutual fund, it's not a no-load fund, but it's a damn good quality fund. And actually, you know, can give the S&P 500 a bit of competition when it comes to performance over the period for period, comparison. And it's very nice, pays dividends. It's, it's the second oldest mutual fund in the country. And, I tried to talk with him about this years ago, and he was like, no, because, I don't trust the stock market. I mean, for years, I couldn't talk with my husband about trading or investing, and I didn't have any income of my own to trade or invest with. So it was like, what could I do? He was paying on these premiums all these years. And what happened was the company raised the premiums because of his age. He's going to be 78 next month. He's had two triple bypasses in his life. There's no way I can get cheaper life insurance for him. And I don't have enough money to pay to bury him and to replace the loss of his Social Security check with my still not having a basic income for myself to live on. And I wouldn't get widow's benefits.
Same thing with my mom.
And I wouldn't get widow's benefits until I was 67, right? And I'm 53. So I get this call from the agent from Baltimore Life. Here's the card. Okay. He says, we need $450 a month or your husband's life insurance is going to lapse. And I'm like, what? I said, can you explain to me like I'm four how in the fuck that could happen when this was supposed to be building, cash value? And he's like, well, we don't like to tell people when the premiums go up. We just, take the cash value to cover the difference so that they wouldn't get a sticker shock. And I'm like, but dude, we don't have the income to afford $450 just for a $50,000 life insurance policy, which would be enough to cover his final expenses and to keep me from being homeless for at least a year, to replace the loss of income because I don't have any. And the one income opportunity I did have, well, the two people that I thought were my friends turned turtle and apparently weren't, which is why I don't even trust anybody when they say they'll help. I have real trust issues now because of that. Because people don't understand the definition of barriers, and they think it's going to be so easy to help somebody that's extremely disprivileged and marginalized. And then when they realize that it's a lot more difficult and the things that work for the privileged and advantaged don't work for the marginalized and the disprivileged, that it's actually going to take a fuck ton of effort, then it's like they drop you like a hot potato and they don't care and they want to victim blame you or come up with some excuse for reneging on their promise to help you. Now, that kind of left me with some serious trust issues on top of the stress of, losing the one hope I had of being able to earn a living with to get a basic income to survive with my Patreon. Because now my husband and I are looking at, do we have that life insurance or do we have food and the electric? I can't take my insulin on an empty stomach, and without electric, the pellet stove don't work, and neither does the refrigerator to keep my insulin from spoiling. All right? It's not a good situation. And yet, if we don't have the life insurance, and he's only got, if he, I'll be exceedingly happy if he lives past another year. But it's like, it's not looking too good. And it's not like we can afford to give up that life insurance policy, especially what that means because I've got nowhere to go and nobody to take me in. I haven't had family to help me or to take care of me since I was 12. And I literally have nowhere to go and no one to take me in and take care of me.
And I've offered to do that in that situation, but that's not even a realistic solution, you know, because we're far, far away. Like getting you here would cost a huge amount of money in some way or another. Maybe not huge, depending on the situation, but like getting your house in order, that's like a lot of effort, you know? So I totally get it. This is why like physical distance is really challenging. Like I wish that there were.
I mean, it's like, and then people wonder why I'm always begging for money. I wouldn't be begging if I was able to economically provide for myself. It's like when something good happened for me, it was like 3 bad things happened that outweighed the good thing. And it's like I got set back even farther, you know? First it was getting slandered so that nobody would support me. Okay. And basically ruined my only way of getting any income, which is my Patreon, because nobody was willing to support or sign up as a result of being fucking slandered. And then it's like an angel came in and, you know, he helped. And that was, you know, Nate with the mic, and he dropped a little, you know, he dropped some money in my GoFundMe that I had to have, that I wouldn't be having to have if I had enough income to be able to live. And I wasn't worried about how am I going to survive when my husband dies, because I have nobody to take me in. I have no living family. I haven't had living family to take me in since I was fucking 12. You know? And it's like when you're poor and you're marginalized, the only other people you know are poor, marginalized people that aren't in a position to take you in because they're doubled and tripled up with family. I literally have nowhere to fucking go as a diabetic and as a Crohn's patient, you know? And it's like then after Nate helps with that, then it's this shit sandwich that gets thrown in my fucking lap with the life insurance thing. And Donnie and I got into an argument. We got into a fight about it. And I ended up so pissed off, I jumped up and I forgot to put a sell limit, a sell stop on a trade that I had in progress. Because I was just so freaked out and upset that I just needed to get away from it. And I just stormed out the front door. And the trade ended up tanking past, you know, what I would have had to sell limit at. So I suffered a catastrophic loss on a trade that I couldn't afford. And we were fighting because I was telling him, if we don't cancel the policy, you're not going to need that insurance because I'm going to be fucking dead because we won't be able to afford food so I can take my insulin. Because $80 a month in food stamps isn't cutting it. And I don't have, you know, I lost $150 a month in Patreon income after that incident with Tom Ray and everything. You know, and it's like I felt abandoned by everybody. Abandoned, and it's like nobody fucking cared. And it's like Angelo was the one who talked me back from really fucking just, you know, because you know what? If all I got to look forward to is ending up living under an overpass and begging passerbys for fucking change while having to sit there in soiled clothing from my disabling medical conditions, I'd rather check the fuck out now. That was what I told, and I was serious. I wasn't kidding.
I knew you know, and I told
Donnie, and it's like, I told Donnie, I says, that way you won't need the insurance, but at least while you're alive, we'll have enough to get by. So then when you go, I'll go too. Or better yet, maybe I'll just go, and that way you can get taken care of in an assisted living center, but there's no place anywhere for me.
Right.
You know, people say they care, but that's caring seems to stop at a goddamn Facebook post. So, you know,
They don't. So the assisted living, they don't have an assisted living apartments or whatever for couples. I don't know. They did in Missouri. I don't know.
I'm too young. I'm not old enough. I'd have to be over age 55 to join him.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not kidding. I would have to be over age 55.
And how old are you're like 53 or something, right?
I'm 53.
Yeah.
You know.
Damn.
So yeah, I mean, I got some real fucking problems, you know?
Yep.
And ended up then losing on a trade because I was fighting with Donnie, and that had me stressed out because I didn't want to be fighting with him. But it's like, look, this is our choice. Shit or shit. And either way, it ain't fucking good.
Right.
And I was mad because it's like, I tried to tell him when we first got married, I said, if we run into financial difficulty, if I can't get a chance for a good job, I said, and we run into problems where we get hit with, because Donnie had never been quite as poor as me. He'd been poor, but not quite as poor as me. And I said, what if something happens? We can't pay the premiums on that life insurance. That means you lose the insurance. You don't have the coverage. You lose everything you paid into the motherfucker. I said, but with a mutual fund, at least you have the money that you put in. If not, a little more. And that's even when you consider looking back over history from the crash of 2008. You know, that if that money would have been put into that mutual fund, we would have $125,000 right now, which means that we wouldn't be without a car. I wouldn't be begging.
Yep.
You know, I wouldn't have a roof that's fallen in. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like that is with, you know, from 2003 when we got married up through the crash of 2008. If that money that he paid on that Baltimore life policy would have been put in that mutual fund, we would be sitting on $125,000. And this little snot of an insurance agent who says to me, "Oh yeah, but if you would have like canceled that policy, you know, 20 years ago or 17 years ago, you'd have put that money in a mutual fund, you would have been hit with a 22% capital gains tax." I just about fucking blew a 50 amper on that dude. I'm like, 22% capital gains on something to fucking gain is a lot better than losing everything and having nothing. I said, because we can't afford the $450 a month just to keep the insurance when my husband doesn't have another 17 years. He doesn't have another 17 months. Right. You know? I said, yes, you people are fucking crooks, man. And that's what Donnie and I were fighting about. I was like, see, I said I was fucking right. And that even with that, you know, crash of 2008, we still would have been better off. We still would have been better off. And it's like, now it's like, if we don't pay that insurance, he doesn't have the policy, I'm left instantly destitute and homeless with nowhere to go.
Right.
No way to get food. No way to buy food to keep myself alive, so at least I can take my insulin. Nothing. You know? And because the Social Security check ends when he dies. And that insurance, we can't pay the premium. There's no insurance. And they took the cash value out for I don't know how long they were dipping into the cash value to pay the increase in premium. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have had that issue with the mutual fund. It's like if we would have run into a fucking hardship where we wouldn't have been able to afford to make a contribution for a month or two or 3 or 4. It's not like we would have lost the entire mutual fund. It's not like we would have lost everything we paid into it. We would have still had something. And then it's like when we get a little extra, we get back on track and contribute again. I mean, it just had me fucking livid. It has
I think insurance is like it's just such a scam, right? Like
Well,
you get nothing in return. We've never had to make a claim on our insurance, on our current insurance.
I call
Never.
it the payday lender for the middle class. And when this punk comes here with his fucking Rolex watch and his brand new sports car and his fancy ass motherfucking suit, and he's talking at us about $400 a month, and he's like, well, it's only a few hundred a month more than what you're paying now. And I'm like, do you lack situational awareness? Do you not fucking see we're fucking poor? Do we look like we can really afford that? I don't even have enough income from my Patreon to cover that. If I pay that and let the phones go, and we need the phones for him to stay in touch with the pharmacy and the doctor for his medicine. You know, I mean, I don't need a phone, but he needs a phone. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like that. So, and, you know, this insurance agent was like saying, well, yeah, but if you would have like canceled that policy all those years ago, you would have been paying capital gains tax. I said, at least I would have some fucking money to pay goddamn taxes on. I mean, you know, talk about a fucking jackass. Living proof that you can get pregnant from anal sex. Yeah. I mean, it's like, what is it about zero doesn't compound upwards do people not get? You know, I'd rather have some money, even if I have to pay a tax on it, than have nothing. I mean, Donnie paid those premiums all those years. And then they didn't tell us that there was a bump in the premium. We got slapped with a sticker shock a mere matter of 2 weeks before the premiums were due to jump by double.
Wow.
And it's like, you know, I think when it comes to insurance salesmen, they have about as much street cred with me as a used car salesman.
Right.
I hate the
car insurance. I hate the car insurance. So
yeah. I mean, I understand.
Maybe I'm a socialist, but if we have to be forced, if we are forced to have insurance on our cars, then our government should provide the insurance, and then it is paid for through our taxes.
And it should also be at a level that's affordable. Because did you know that your auto insurance rates are not computed on your driving record? Did you know that they're based on your credit score and on your zip code? So if you're poor and you live in a poor neighborhood, which they can suss out through zip codes, and you have, you know, you don't have stellar credit, you will pay a higher rate than some rich twat waffle who had a fucking DUI with a sports car. I tried to create my own job selling auto insurance, working out of my home when nobody was giving me a chance for a job, you know, back in the day. But then when the insurance company started back charging the agents our commissions for people that would drop the insurance policies, probably because they couldn't afford the rates, you know, they started back charging the agents. It's like, what the fuck? I can't afford to work for free, plus pay to upkeep my, you know, property and casualty license, plus the continuing education courses, plus the errors and emissions insurance that I had to carry as an independent contractor. So I wasn't an employee of AIG. I was, you know, a contractor. So I just said, fuck it. And I let my licenses lapse and I shove it, you know. But that's how I learned this about how auto insurance rates are computed. And when people who are poor try to get auto insurance, even if you have a perfecto driving record, we're talking a driving record that is that you could eat my homemade Sicilian marinara sauce off of. Doesn't matter. You're poor, you live in a poor zip code, in a poor neighborhood, you get charged 35 to 50% more than another driver, same age, same car, or even a riskier car like a sports car, who had a fucking DUI, who just happened to live in an affluent neighborhood and have a fucking FICO score of 700 or 800. And the reasoning behind this, according to the Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers, the IIAB, which I quoted in my book, Classism for Dimwits, as a source citation, because I don't bring sticks to gunfights. I bring facts and data. According to the IIAB, the rationale behind that of charging poor people more is that there's this classist assumption that the poor are more likely to file a fucking claim to get money. So it's like you're not charged higher rates based on your driving record. You're punished, you're penalized for poverty. You're charged more by 35 to 50% more than somebody who's middle class or rich, who might have a worse driving record than you. I shit you not. It's a fact.
Well, I could say that that's true even like through Medicare. Everybody, so not everybody, but people have said, oh, well, Medicare, it's just like free. It's totally free and you don't have to pay anything. You should have to pay something. Well, guess what? I do have to pay something. They only cover 80%. I mean, I still have to pay that 20%. And then I found out that the medical supply company that I order my ostomy supplies through, they were charged. So when I lived in Montana, I was 100% covered. The insurance there, like the Medicaid I was 100% covered. When I moved to Arizona and lost that Medicaid, and just went straight Medicare with Humana supplemental, I still had to pay more.
Yeah.
But nobody really explained that to me, right? Like I didn't really know that. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we're cutting you off. You can't order any more of the supplies that you need every second of every day for the rest of your life. We're cutting you off until you pay us $750. And I was like,
that.
What?
Yeah.
What? And so my husband went to, first he went to Amazon and he just looked up the PLU number on the box of the supplies we had.
You got to go to Amazon for everything. I buy my Depends from
No. Not now. Okay. So he went to Amazon first and then now he is going to eBay and finding them even at better prices. So it is cheaper for us to pay full price on eBay or Amazon than it is for me to use my federally funded health insurance for my prescriptions.
Then that means you're federally
it's more
funded.
Cost effective for me to not use the insurance.
That's really criminal. That's outright fucking criminal. I mean, I have no words. I'm going to do a podcast on this life insurance fiasco because I want to break down for people what dumping a life insurance premium equivalent into a mutual fund equals to over a 17-year period, taking into account the crash of 2008 and everything, going through, because they're really good, compound interest calculators online. And I could, now that I know how to use Streamlabs really well. And I got over my fear of doing a podcast in order to come to the defense of our friends. Okay. Now I'm going to do it like I'm going to put up another podcast and I'm going to do a better one. And I'm going to show, how this insurance thing is a jagoff ripoff, with using Donnie's policy is a cash building policy, and I'm going to show people the difference. Yeah, and I'm going to put Baltimore Life on blast too. Fucking A. I'm going to put them on blast. And and they're not the only one. I mean, they're all like that. But I put the auto insurance companies on blast in my book, but most people didn't read my book. But I'm going to go over that too. I'm going to tell people how these, how you're automatically shunted into what's called a substandard auto insurance carrier, like AIG or Progressive, which substandard means you pay a higher rate if you're poor. Not if you're a bad driver, if you're poor. And I'm going to start putting the insurance companies on fucking blast. And when that nitwit said about, oh, well, you'd be taxed at a 22% capital gains. And I'm like, you think I'm going to fucking cry about 22% capital gains if I at least don't lose everything that we would have put into it over a 17-year spell versus the absolute nothing I will have because we just don't have the income to afford this surprise shit sandwich of the premium doubling with no more advance notice than 2 weeks. I mean, this is, and when they send out the stuff, now I'm somebody that at one time had a property and casualty license. At one time I had a Series 7 and a Series 66 license many, many moons ago. For the one job I got an opportunity for, it was commissions only. It was selling financial products for Waddell and Reed, and that job didn't last long because I had to scoot when my traffickers found out where I was. But everything that they taught you on the exams, it's like when you look at the policy, it is so, it's not something, I couldn't understand it. There was nothing in there that was indicative that this would happen with the premiums. And it wasn't, I don't feel it was fully disclosed to my husband and I. And I have more education in this shit than most. And if this was something that I didn't understand was going on and could expect to happen, what the fuck can we expect for people who never had any dealings with, financial services products, such as life insurance and annuities. I don't mean property and casualty insurance like car and home or renter's insurance. I'm talking life, health, disability income replacement, a DI policy, because even the company's actuarial departments, I don't think give all the facts to the agents, and the agents are just trying to make a sale because you're paid commission only, and they don't even fully understand what they're being told to sell people. They don't literally understand,
Check this out. Grace says here, which here is Missouri. That's where she's talking about. If you do not have any life insurance, nor the money to cover your funeral, they will let the family rent a coffin. If you are able to afford a cheap basic funeral, then after the funeral, they remove your body and just throw you in a hole. They do not let you make payments for the funeral either. Like,
how
it
is
they even get you when you're dead, man. Like it never ends. It never ends.
Well, what's even worse than Pennsylvania is they cremate you regardless of how strongly you feel opposed to cremation. Okay, now I'm not a Torah observant Jew, but I have issues with cremation that it's not an option for me to have Donnie cremated. And, he says he doesn't care. I fucking care. It's just very off-putting to me in a way that I don't know how to explain. And since I'm secular and I'm pretty much, an atheist at this point, or an agnostic. I shouldn't say atheist, more like agnostic. It doesn't have to do with the tradition in which I was raised. It has to do with something that I can't explain, that to me just seems very violent and horrific. And it's just, I can't. And it's like, look, as hard and shitty and miserable of a life that I've had, at least let me and my husband be buried. Not in a potter's field, not cremated and then have our ashes discarded in a potter's field as in a numbered thing. How about a green burial where we're just put in a wicker casket, not embalmed, no, none of that, but wicker casket wrapped in a shroud, buried in the ground with a memorial tree or bush, a green burial.
Yes.
They don't have that. They don't have that option in my state, and I wish the fuck they did, because that is actually cheaper than a cremation, and it's not violent. It's not. It doesn't. There's something comforting about that idea to me, whereas. Anyway, I wouldn't even have enough.
I want to add to that, though. So we own this is how they get you, even in death. So we own our own property. We own our 5 acres. We have plenty of room. We could put a little 1/4 acre memorial garden or something like that somewhere. We could put a little spot here. But we have to pay the government to bury our own family members on our own property that we own 100% outright. We need their permission. So I understand that there's like some like processing issues and stuff. So like we would still be processed, wrap people up or whatever, like go back to the days where they did just bury them in the wicker basket underneath the willow tree and then put a little bench right there and go and sit there and hang out.
Right. Well, what they're going to say is the reason for that stuff is because the formaldehyde and the embalming. But back in the old days, they didn't do that. Right. And what I'm looking for is a green burial. It's like wicker basket, no formaldehyde, with all the fucking coke that Donnie drank in his life. That shit turns into formaldehyde in your gut. He won't need any embalming fluid. But, so just be buried.
But I also wanted to say that I feel like I'm pretty much atheist myself, I kind of lean Buddhist and I kind of jump around in different ways in that regard. But I do feel like we have like a soul. I feel like we have like an energy that lives on beyond, right?
Yeah,
and so I don't know about heaven and hell and things like that, but I think that our energy is transferred out, right? Like, so I feel like we can still feel things, right? And so I think that if we were put into I feel like our souls would be like scorched and we would feel it and it would be horrific. And like you said, violent and all of that. I'm just like, nah, man, that is not, that's not peaceful.
Yeah. And it's
so
like,
I feel strongly about it regarding my mom as well. So,
yeah. And it's like, that's how I feel. And I'm not really an atheist per se. I mean, I do believe there is a God. I just think that the so-called accepted authorities don't all have a handle on it. I don't think any one person has a handle on it. I think there could be a God, maybe more than one. Who the fuck knows? There could be more than one. I don't know. I don't discount souls. I do believe we all have souls. I know that we do.
Yeah.
And I know that because if you put it in terms of string theory, I'm going to go weird now for a minute. Bear with me. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And if we think of our spirit as our energy, our essence, That's something that can't be created nor destroyed. However, I think if you have a violent death, it and I don't mean just
Your
the
soul
most
is unsettled.
Yes, exactly. And I was watching something quite interesting the other night on YouTube. I'm weird. I was watching this thing about serial killers, and this with a paranormal investigation team that went into this house that used to be owned by a serial killer in Indiana, Herbert Baumeister. He was suspected of being the I-70 killer in Indiana. And anyway, he was this wealthy, successful businessman, and this estate that he and his wife had. And he died from suicide, by the way. But this estate where he had, because serial killers usually operate they need privacy to operate. He had, lured vulnerable young men to his estate and fucking killed them, But there was a paranormal team there because there was a young wealthy couple that bought that house that knew the history, and they were like, we don't give a fuck. This is great. We want to have our horses, and we're not superstitious, and we don't believe in all that hocus pocus. They believe now. They started experiencing incidents that there just was no explanation for. They actually caught not just EVPs, they actually caught visual manifestation, and there were some physical manifestations. And the guy who was the killer, Herbert Baumeister, that his spirit, which is very malevolent, he was a vicious, sadistic, malevolent piece of shit in life. You think his disposition improved in the afterlife? Hell to the fuck no. I mean, he was started to terrorize, or his ghost did, the people in the new house. So they had this paranormal team, and I was watching this, and I was like, oh, fuck me. And I immediately PM'd Angela. I'm like, you know what? Even, I said, I might be a hardcore skeptic, but this has me believing, because they shared the footage from this paranormal team. So it's like, yeah, I do believe that the spirit goes on, and that we have, it actually is energy, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And that means it moves into different planes. And where the string theory comes into is where things are a physical plane and a different plane. String theory basically holds for, I'm going to sum it up really dumb, sweet, and short, is that if you stub your toe on your desk, that's not really matter, solid matter. It's only matter in a certain plane, but it's just the way the molecules manifest themselves in this plane. And that basically jives with, what we're talking about with afterlife and spirits and ghosts and stuff. Of course, I'm that weirdo. I'm the weirdo that would I'm weird. I'm totally weird, Annette. Have you ever known me to be normal?
No. A soul will not rest in violent, shocking death. Most will wander through eternity, known as a spirit. I was into paranormal for many years. I have had my own gifts, as they call them, of being clairvoyant. Very interesting.
That is.
Yeah, like I've seen spirits. I saw my dad. My dad has come back to visit me, and it was like unmistakable. Right there. Like I was awake, man. Like I know. And it was right after he died, though. So I haven't seen him in a really long time, but I'm also very, very distracted by everything else. So he might be around and I'm not paying attention, and I probably should be. That is something that I could do. Here's something I wanted to. Well, no, we're already way off topic. So
yeah, we probably.
I want to build a little memorial garden, like a Zen garden.
I think we freaked out Mikey.
Well, I
kind
don't know if we freaked out. He just can't get a word in edgewise. So he's a quiet one.
Yeah.
He's listening to us probably. He's just off doing his own thing. And we have a way of taking over the conversation. So.
Especially when we haven't, talked for like a long time because we were both like busy with trying to just get through life.
Yeah.
And it's like I haven't been able to be on your podcast or on the Yang Gang Report podcast for a long time. Because I had
what I was really trying to do with this podcast was to get a conversation going about how we can keep the Yang Gang united through this extremely divisive time. And Yang is still out there as our leader, right? He's leading us. He's still very active. He has not bailed out on us. He's still there for us. He's still talking to us and for us and working for us and all that, right? So therefore,
yeah. I think a lot of people.
Go ahead.
A lot of people don't realize it'll be a lot easier to keep Biden and Kamala Harris's feet to the fire. We'll get closer to pushing for a UBI with them guys than we would with Trump. And because Trump he's blatantly admitted to really not giving a fuck, about the American people, about Americans.
Right.
That he let 200,000 fucking die. I mean, he knew this was going to be a problem. The Republicans in Congress who, fought with the Democrats over, getting help to the people sooner. Now, the Democrats were no angels in this either. I mean, there was nobody that was a saint in the whole thing. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, she's as guilty as Trump. And as Mitch McConnell, it's just, I think that we stand a better chance of getting a UBI under a Biden presidency than anyone else because we can put pressure that will actually matter. With Trump, he thinks he's a dictator. I mean, he thinks he's the fucking king. He admitted he's saying he was not going to commit to a peaceful transition. You know what that means?
Right.
Okay. This guy is ipso facto a fucking dictator. You can't get a dictator to, give us what we want. He's looking now for ways to circumvent the election outcome. If he loses even by a landslide, he's going to figure out a way to have his proverbial Reichstag fire event to prevent a transition of power. He's evil. He doesn't care.
Exactly.
He doesn't care about anybody.
Here's how I have settled. Here's how I have settled for voting for Biden this time. And the one and only time, all right? Like, this is my last establishment vote. I'm gonna give it to you. And if you F it up, could it get worse? Of course it could get worse. Like, oh my gosh. Like, and then I'm going to vote independent or third party from here on out forever. Just forget it. And if that doesn't work, then I'm just going to stop voting.
Well, my stop voting was actually my go-to because to vote at all is to grant consent.
Yes.
I have extreme difficulty with granting consent to a systemic injustice that is not going to be changed as long as the status quo remains unchanged. In other words, the fish rots from the head. It's like the argument that I had with that dipshit, that rebuttal that I had with that dipshit on that Twitter thread, where he was insisting, well, we could fix the broken social programs for the poor by making the benefits more generous. It's like, you don't understand. You can't fix those programs even if you do that, because the problem is the fact that they are by design paternalistic, patriarchal, and means-tested garbage. I said, and I went into the food stamp thing and how, food stamps don't pay your electric, and I couldn't even buy food with them during the pandemic. And I came right out and credited, Andrew Yang's charity, Humanity Forward, for saving my life, because without money to buy groceries, without, some people in Yang Gang dropping me some money, I wouldn't have had food to take my insulin, because I couldn't use the EBT card to get my groceries on Instacart, and I am diabetic. I have to be able to shop for foods that I can have. So using the EBT card on Amazon for the very limited things that they'll let me use the EBT card for in my state anyway, it's just not a fucking thing. It's just not doable. I think it's, and not to mention the fact that I would rather get rid of garbage programs that don't work and have everybody have a livable UBI and make sure that healthcare was taken care of, so that if you were poor and your only way of getting any income, because you're just too disadvantaged to have any hope of ever being able to earn an income on top of a UBI, then your insulin and shit should be fucking free.
Right.
But it's
so
like,
I also think that we should, like, I don't necessarily think that we should obliterate or like ban private insurance or private, whatever, because some people like it, man. They do. Like when we had Blue Cross Blue Shield, it was expensive, but it was great.
But I don't think poor people who can't afford it should be left to fucking suffer and die because they can't afford their fucking insulin.
Of course not. No, of course not. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think that universal health care should exist. And if you can afford private insurance, then you should be free to choose to use private insurance if that is your choice. And then the same thing with like let's say car insurance, right? So if it is mandated and we are forced to have auto insurance, then the government should provide an affordable basic liability program for those who cannot afford insurance. And then for people who can afford insurance, then they have that option available to them still. Well, I don't want to ban all that other stuff. I think people should be free to choose.
But here's the thing. The problem with the auto insurance and like the private health insurance, as long as they are allowed to price gouge people that are poor who are the least able to afford to pay, like in the way they did with you with your supplies and the way they do with the car insurance, okay? I think that there needs to be some rules that you can't do that. You've got to make it, the same for everybody. Not charge the poor more. Or especially in the case of auto insurance. I mean, I don't know what it is for health because I never was able to have private health insurance. Okay, but I know that for auto insurance, I was shocked to see that the rates were 35 to 50% higher for people who were poor, who had, because of having financial problems, didn't have great credit, and lived in a fucking poor neighborhood. That those who could least afford it were charged 35 to 50% more. That is a major big chunk of change. And I think there's something that should be done about that because that has nothing to do. People end up filing claims on their auto insurance because they get hurt in an accident, usually caused by some other driver fucking up. And if you're not the driver who fucked up in the accident, okay, I mean, that's the way what it should be based on. It shouldn't be based on anything except your driving record. I just really haven't. It's infuriating because we're talking about a huge chunk of change there.
No, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So, wasn't it? I think it was in Fight Club or something, or maybe it was one of the Die Hard movies, where they just like wiped out, like somebody like Anonymous hacked in to, and they just like wiped out everybody's debt. What would it take to wipe out everybody's debt and just start with like a clean slate? And what would happen? Is that just insane? Like, would it just be mass chaos? What would happen?
Well, JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs and AIG, they wouldn't be too happy.
Well, maybe those companies, need to go down. We need to go back to a time before those.
I think they need to be spanked. They definitely need to be spanked. I just think the practice of price gouging the poorest people for the same goods and services that people that are well off pay a lot less for, and this is a conversation that has yet to be had, because when people think about programs for the poor and they bitch about having to pay for somebody like me who's poor and needs Medicaid as diabetic, and they're like, well, I'm successful because, it's like, yeah, well, you got lucky, you got opportunities that I didn't, number one. Number two, you pay less for your shit than I get charged simply because I'm poor. Nobody likes to have that conversation that they're getting a break at the expense of the least well off in this country. And yet that's a conversation we need to have. We need to talk about things like how, the breaks that middle and upper class people get on utilities in their housing. It's the same thing with housing utilities. The poor charge 35% more, 35 to 50% more for electric and gas, than people who are wealthy.
Our electric bills are like in the $500 to $600 range.
Yeah.
Like $600. And we qualified for a one-time energy assistance grant.
Yep.
One time. And then I don't know if it's per life or per year, but so that paid one bill, and we still have like 140, like just under 150 left. And then they also gave us like a tab of the same amount that they gave for the electric bill. They also gave us in propane at our local store. So we can go have our propane tanks filled at the store, which is actually going to be very, very helpful. So then we don't have to run the electric heaters. We'll be able to run the propane heaters in our RVs. And so then it won't be quite as expensive. So that's actually, I'm looking forward to that part. But that other bit where they paid off the electric bill, it's like one bill, 1.25 of the electric bills, and then we're going to go right back to like $600 again.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the one time that Donnie and I qualified for LIHEAP, because if you don't have kids, you rank the last in priority for getting helped. No matter how compelling your situation is, no matter how needy you are, you don't have kids, you get fuck all. The one time that Donnie and I got LIHEAP, it was for a one-time amount of $157 payable directly to the gas company, and that wasn't even enough to cover 1 month's worth of winter heating utility. We've been without our gas since 2005. We were never able to get it back. We are struggling just to keep the electric and water, and, I'm diabetic, and It's just that people think there's all this help out there for the poor, but there's not. I mean, those programs were subjected to a death by 1,000 budget cuts over the past 40 years. And that means that, the ones that do get helped, if they get anything, they don't get enough.
Yeah, like the $99. The $99. Like, would it kill them? Would it just kill them to give us one more dollar and make it an even hundy? Like...
Right.
I mean, how much does it cost for the president to golf? And they can't give us $100? And it just...
We didn't even get an increase in our EBT benefits, but that's okay.
Well, maybe yours is coming. Maybe yours is still coming. I don't know. I mean,
I'm so angry at the way that situation was handled during the COVID shutdowns that it's like, I was just like telling them to shove it up their ass, because it's like, I'm diabetic. I don't even get enough for 1 week's worth of diabetic friendly food. I said, now, under the COVID situation of me being poor and having no fucking car, I have no way to use my food stamps to buy food, because the Amazon, the limited stuff I can get on Amazon with my ABT card, I can't have as a diabetic.
Right.
So how good is that?
Okay.
On Twitter is defending. He's defending programs like that and trying to pretend that that they can just somehow fix it by making them more generous. Making those food stamps more generous isn't going to help. What would help is just giving people money instead.
Exactly. Because then, so here's the deal. So my husband just got offered a temporary job. It's like 11 weeks, because there's 1 week of training that he would get paid for. And then 10 weeks of this job while the other person has to go away for 10 weeks. Okay. So, and it's a delivery job, and he doesn't have to use his own vehicle, and he's going to deliver the lunches for like the Meals on Wheels, like the lunch delivery service, right? And so we were really concerned at the beginning that if he got this job, that we would lose our food stamps. And like, we depend upon those food stamps. It might only be $80 to $99, but we freaking need those, man. Like, we need it. And so he almost like turned down the job because he was so concerned that. And nobody
should be put in that kind of a situation.
Right.
And this is what I was trying to explain to that dumb fuck on Twitter. Okay. Who was who was actually arguing with a bunch of Yang Gang on Twitter and calling our friend Angelo a fascist. That pissed me off more than anything. That's when I jumped in. I was like, fuck this. I don't care if this looks like a stupid podcast or not. I'm not going to let this slide. But it's like you get punished and you can't ever be anything but poor. And what help you get isn't enough to even be able to live with a little bit of basic comfort and dignity. And there's no excuse for that. And there is no way to improve that. The better way is to give everybody money and not take it away from you if you get to earn a little bit of extra money here and there, or, whether it's through a Patreon or through podcasting or whatever, or through a regular job, if you're able to, to get one. You shouldn't have to be put in that kind of a situation where you are actually left between the shit and the stink. I don't know how else to describe it. But I came right out on my podcast and said, I'd rather they scrap the programs. I said, shove them garbage programs up your ass.
And just give us all cash. Give everybody the cash. Even the rich people. Even the rich people who claim that they don't want it. I don't need your free money. I don't need the government. I don't need your welfare. Shut up and take your own money. It's your money. It is our money.
Not only that, but here's the thing, and I got into that in my podcast too, is this guy that was debating and fighting with UBI advocates on Twitter was saying that the reason he opposed it is he didn't want to give it to people who didn't need it. So I gave the breakdown just in case this dumb fuck didn't understand that 80%, which is the people in this country who definitely do need a UBI to get by each month, versus 20% who don't. Are you going to, just to make sure you don't give the 20% who are okay and don't need it, you're willing to throw the 80% under the bus who do? And then I got into it and said, and let's talk about who really doesn't need it. And I got into how the shrinking jobs pie means that even if you are born into the upper middle class, into the top 20%, that you're still not guaranteed a good spot in this society or in life. That you pretty much have to be born in the top 1% to be guaranteed, a good job and a good spot, because that is how consolidated things have become. That is how the jobs pie has shrunk. And, companies are not going to go back to human workers when they see that they can successfully automate away, and they have a one-time upfront cost of getting the fucking robots. So, this is not like any other thing. And this happened very rapidly because of COVID. And on top of that, a lot of people who are self-employed, who maybe had one or two employees other than themselves, if that, who were put out of business with COVID.
Right.
COVID changed everything so that they won't have a job to go back to. And when I say a job, I mean a self-employment kind of a job. That this has very broad reaching effects, and there's no fucking way a federal jobs guarantee can absorb all that. I mean, get real. The unemployment, the offices for food stamps and welfare and unemployment could not absorb the shock of suddenly impoverished people applying for help, whether it was, unemployment benefits or whether it was welfare benefits. I mean, the backlog is fucking tremendous. The system is not designed to handle that. And these guys that are anti-UBI and strictly job guarantee folks, they don't realize that their idea of a system would not be able to absorb this kind of shock either. How do you prepare to be able to instantly transition people into, FJG jobs when you suddenly have, 50 to 60% of the formerly employed jobless with no job to go back to? I mean, that's just, it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. It is easier to just give everybody money and we can fix our own lives. And this person that was fighting with Angelo and the others on that Twitter thread, he was basically saying that it sucks to be shut out of getting a chance for a socially valuable job. And that's when I spoke out. It's like, I am one of those people you claim to speak for. And this is why I was shut out, because I'm a human trafficking survivor. I was born female and poor in a generational poverty. And on top of that, I got trafficked. I said, no matter what I tried to do throughout my whole life, it was never enough. It was like always these barriers and roadblocks and life anchors that other people never had to fucking deal with. And I don't feel useless or, because I couldn't get a good job. I feel useless because I have to beg, because we don't even have a social floor on which I can stand. Because in a society where there is no opportunity that's ever going to be made available, especially not now at my age and with health issues. I mean, you know, too many barriers, but at least with a floor to stand on, at least spend what time I have left living in dignity without having to beg for food for my next, month's supply, depends, for whatever. I could kind of figure shit out on my own, because the system as it stands has been a major epic fucking fail with a capital F.
Yes.
This
is why there are days where I'm like in favor of like just wipe it all away, like start over, press the do-over button and dismantle everything and then put it back together again in a way that works. We don't have to get rid of every single person. There are some good ones out there. We love Katie Porter. I love David Kim. There are so many of like the Humanity Forward candidates and stuff like that. And even a few of the establishment ones might be all right. Like I think Cory Booker's an all right guy. Like he's probably made some bad decisions in the past, but shit, we got to move forward, not backwards. So I think that there's even so there's a few establishment ones. And you know what I really wish, like my ultimate dream, is that we didn't really have like parties and you just vote for whoever you want. Like you vote for a person.
But Annette, that
what?
is something that makes sense.
I know.
But we're not allowed to have things that make sense in the United States. It's like we live in a weird fucking dystopian version of Alice in fucking Wonderland where nothing makes sense.
Okay, look at what Grace says here. I believe Biden will pass a UBI into law in his term because Obama was for it. Plus, back when Obama was in office, I remember me and my husband were getting a $200 check extra over our SSI during the crash. And also he did a one-time payoff for utilities where no matter what you owed, you got a clean slate. Everybody was paid in full for you. Everything was paid in full for you. Sorry.
I didn't know about that because that didn't happen for us. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, we have much greater possibility. So,
yeah,
I'm going to have to do it.
We just got to stay on their asses. I mean, we just got to stay on their asses and not let them, off the hook. I mean, and
I agree with you.
That means we can't take shit online from shit posters who call our friends and fellow Yang Gang peeps fascists and, neoliberals and libertarians all in the same sentence, because it's like, talk about some seriously confused individuals. You cannot be a libertarian and a fascist and a neoliberal all at the same time. That just, well, maybe the neoliberal and the fascist might go together, but yeah, I mean,
all right, well, we have been on here over 2 hours. We only have one very loyal and faithful viewer. Thank you, Grace. Always sticking it out to the bitter end. And we have gotten way, way, way off topic. But it was all good stuff to talk about. Like, and then, I mean, ultimately tying it all back into it is how, like, the poverty and the stress causes all this depression and anxiety. And it's like one thing after another. And this is why I liked Marianne Williamson, is because she wanted for us to heal. Like she wanted to heal the country. And that is something that I really did want to talk about more, was how do we heal the country? Like, and I mean, it's like, I mean, gosh, it's just so much.
When people don't have their basic needs met, they can't really heal. You know,
No,
I mean, the
no.
prerequisite is to have the thing we've been fighting for all along, because Yang was fucking right. That's what we need to heal. People can't heal when they're under 24/7 stress because of not having what they need to survive in dignity.
And then they also can't help their fellow humans in need, you know? Like some people are more in need than other people, and then like, so when everybody is in need, then nobody can help anybody that's in need. And
Yeah.
you know, so like we never are able, nobody moves forward then. We're all just stuck.
Yeah, I mean,
and no wonder we're so depressed. We're all mentally ill. Every single one of us has been traumatized at some level or another in our lives.
Well, that's why I came out and said that poverty is economic terrorism, and that
It
not
is.
having
I agree with that.
and that condemning people to suffer preventable disability and premature death from poverty is a clear-cut violation of the 8th Amendment of the Constitution. If you watch that podcast link that I sent there where I rebutted the Twitter asshole, you know, I get into that.
Mm-hmm.
I get into it real good, and I break it down. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what we need to heal. We need to not have a society where it's acceptable to condemn people to suffer preventable disability and premature death from destitution, from poverty. You know, just because what you're going to condemn somebody to suffer that because they weren't as lucky as other people. You know, how the fuck does that even compute? You know, especially when you're taking better care of convicted axe murderers in prison. At least giving them food and clothing and hot showers and shit. You know, I mean, granted, nobody wants to live in a prison, but it's still, it makes you think when you say, look, we are taking better care of convicted axe murderers with the prison system than we take care of poor people who have just not been lucky. And this is a violation of the 8th Amendment. Condemning somebody to suffer preventable disability and death, but for poverty, counts as torture and cruel and inhumane punishment. It also meets the definition of extrajudicial homicide.
So why don't other countries come in and save us from peril? Like
because
we supposedly are. Like,
because they look at us like we are the bad guys. I mean, I actually got into it with some French women who were supposedly Yang Gang, but they weren't really Yang Gang. They were just saying they were Yang Gang. And they were saying that they really resented how poor Americans who are so better off than everybody else want to make everything about them. And that, you know, that we're entitled and we're privileged because we're talking about our problems with our poor living in literal third world poverty in our country.
right.
It's like other countries, they fucking hate us because they look at the U.S. as, you know, an imperialist, entitled society. But what they don't understand is that if there's any imperialists and entitled people, it's not the people who are struggling for their fucking lives, whom this society has never worked for. It is, you know, the people who they really need to be directing their anger at, which isn't people that are disempowered and disprivileged who are begging for help.
Right.
You know, it's not like we have any control over the fucking CIA going in and doing a regime change.
Mm-hmm.
People with the least power and privilege in this country don't have, you know, any, we'll say it all. We have a vote, and we're allowed to vote between whoever they tell us we can vote for.
Right.
You know? And it's like, these other countries actually hate us. They don't understand. They are seeing only part of the story. They're not seeing your story, Davey's story, my story, Grace's story,
Mikey's story.
Mikey's story, Angelo's story.
Yep.
Okay? I mean, you know, it's just, so we're really, I mean, there are some Canadians who are close to the border and are in touch with people like me who live close to the Canadian border that we talk. And they're kind of sympathetic, but that's just like a handful. But most of these other countries in the world, and even most of the Canadians, fucking hate us. They have no sympathy. There is no country that will take in any economic refugees from America.
Wow.
I mean, they look at us like we are to blame for the entire world's ills. As
that
if
doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me, actually.
You know,
I mean,
they
we
wouldn't
kind of are, aren't we?
Well, the thing is that you can't blame the people who have the least amount of privilege and power in this country that don't even have any control or agency over their own fucking lives, who are struggling for their own lives, who are being oppressed by their own society. You know? You don't blame, you know, the poor, the marginalized, and the disprivileged who don't have any real institutional power.
Right.
And that's my concern, is that other countries are the citizens of other countries who are extremely privileged and well off compared to us. They're not willing or able to make that differentiation.
Right.
Maybe I'll do a podcast about that, and to get the word out on the internet, outside of Facebook, like the entire fucking global internet, but if you've got the rest of the world, go ahead.
They must realize that we're not all like Trump and his supporters. That we're not all corrupt and greedy and
no, they think we're all selfish and entitled. They think we're all selfish and entitled. Doesn't matter if you're dying from poverty because, at a lower life expectancy rate than the poor of their fucking country. Ew, you're an American. You're entitled. So it's the selfish fucksticks that have put a face on the proverbial ugly American that have pretty much left people like us friendless in the entire world.
I see.
You know?
So no one's going to come save us.
Fuck no. They'd rather see the United States burn to the fucking ground. They see us as a failed state, as a failed experiment, and as a threat to the rest of the fucking world.
I still wish we would have bought a private island when we had our money. When we had our malpractice money.
I wish the fuck I would have tried to get to Canada 20, 30 years ago before I met Donnie. It probably would have been easier for me as a poor woman, being young and at the time had my health, to get accepted as a Canadian resident and then try to have a chance for a fucking life there. It's depressing living in a country where your government fucking hates you. and doesn't care if you fucking suffer and die. And that a good half of this country supports that status quo.
Yes.
So that's like half of your fucking neighbors, half of your community, half of your fucking state, half of your coworkers give zero fucks and have zero fucking that don't believe in human rights and give zero fucks if you're able to survive.
Right.
That's why people are fucking depressed.
And we can't trust anybody. Last night I was only able to name about 5 people that I trust, like solid trust, you know?
It's less than that for me. Far less. Far less than that for me. You know. That's why people are depressed. That's why people are angry. Americans as a society have never, for the most part, been into human rights. How many decades did they find it was acceptable that thousands of Americans die from poverty every year simply for not being lucky? Not being able to survive without getting their basic needs met until their luck could turn around and turn around in a good and enough to lift them out of life-threatening poverty. And how many other Americans that were better off gave zero fucks the whole fucking time and just blamed the victim and tried to make it all an individual issue, that it's the individual poor person's fault that they're poor. That it's not a systemic injustice, that it's not a structural defect. I mean, let's face it, Americans were never all that into human rights. I mean, it was only as recently...
No, I don't think they're, you know, like thinking all the way back, like even like the natives fought each other, right? Like, so was there ever a time that America was actually great? Was there ever a time where we weren't just killing each other all the time?
I don't think so. I mean, I really don't think so.
So it's just humans. Is it humans or more so?
I think it's
Americans. Americans more so than.
I think it's Americans more so than anything, because you don't see that kind of cultural cruelty and selfishness in other countries. Like, it's not considered acceptable to have people suffer and die from poverty in other countries. It's like they might not be super generous with the poor, but they would be appalled at the idea that you deserve to suffer and die if you haven't been lucky. You know?
Right.
And it's like American culture is very much very individualistic. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of individualism, but too much can be a bad thing. And when you ignore structural defects that create horrific systemic injustices, when you have a culture of cruelty to the poor, a culture of cruelty.
Not even to the poor. I mean, more so to the poor than to, like, obviously the opposite. But you know what I mean? Like, we're just cruel to each other, like, across the board.
I've seen middle class people be real shitbags and bullies. Like, I was reading on message boards how middle class people would be shitbags and bullies and bully their coworkers out of their jobs, not giving a fuck that coworker's family would be condemned to poverty as a result.
Right.
I mean, we have a country full of selfish fucksticks that think that that's perfectly okay.
Right.
That victim blaming is okay.
Go around like political labels, really, like, I don't even know that I could define all of those different, like, accurately, probably better than most, but like, you know, but still at the same time, I'm not running around calling like people libtards and demon craps. That's a good one.
Or
Demon
moochers
craps.
and moochers and social parasites, simply
Leeches.
disabled and
Yep,
poor.
yep. Lazy. God.
I really fucking
We're like the
can't
dregs of society because we'd like a little bit of money so we can just like live and be an active member of society.
I mean, I didn't sign up for a lifetime of suffering and oppression. I didn't get to choose what country I was born into. I didn't get to choose any of that. And to me, it seems, beyond hypocritical to call yourself pro-life when you give zero fucks about the human rights of the already fucking born. And yes, quality of life matters too.
Yes,
there's no reason why everybody in this country can't have a good life. There is enough wealth in this country for everybody to live a comfortable life. It's just that, there's so many selfish fucksticks in the top 20%, and they're the ones that have everything, while 80% of the country is fuck all.
And they're so prideful. Like, for a Christian nation, they're like the 7 deadly sins.
They don't even worship Jesus. They worship a different Jesus. I was telling Angelo, I said, yeah, their version of Jesus was a Jesus who wore an Armani suit and rode into Jerusalem, not on a donkey on Palm Sunday, but in a fucking Rolls Royce, sporting an Armani suit, Florsheim shoes, and a Rolex watch. I mean, it's like they cherry pick the Bible and they use that 2 Thessalonians verse, those who don't work shall not eat, as the excuse to, starve people to death or cause people to die from poverty because they were never able to make it. Because for every thing that went right in their life, you had 3 things that went wrong that set them even further back. And they just couldn't get lucky enough for a long enough period to be able to survive. And, what's Grace saying?
Grace says, I believe that what most of the Yang Gang that's what most of the Yang Gang think I am for begging that I have to do on here just to try to survive. And I see that. I see the silence. Like, for a while, everybody was really responsive to you guys and whatever. But like, I see that you and Grace are in very, very similar situations, and I just wish we had some volunteer social workers that are not don't think those things about poor people, that can go out and just like advocate for us all. Like, we need like universal advocates to get everybody the things that they need.
Well, we need
whatever it is.
Shut the fuck up and step down, and we can advocate for ourselves just fine. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like a whole new government is in order. I'm reading a book I'm reading a book about anarchy or anarchism, I guess, because I'm trying to learn things and like, my memory is really bad, so if I don't read it like all at once, then I kind of lose what I what I've already read. But like, I'm feeling like less and less government, and I think that UBI would help us be able to do that. Like, we don't need to pay the government for permission to bury our loved ones on property that we own. That is insane to me. That is not freedom.
But what
you know what I mean?
We do need government, though, to make sure that you're not price gouged and charged 35 to 50% more for utilities. For
I'm not saying no government.
You know, it's
I'm
like
not saying no
the problem is
but
we have a government that is not taking care of the people. It's only pandering to the wealthy. And, you know, that's, you know what? I don't wish to punish the rich for having money, but I do think there's something radically wrong when we have a government that is willing to throw 90% of the population of this country under the goddamn bus.
Yeah.
Just for the fucking top 10%.
And then just go on vacation. Like, they just go on vacation. What?
What happened?
Yeah, Grace. Yeah, just they're about to go on vacation again. So still don't have a damn stimulus. I would invite any of them to walk in our shoes for 1 month. I know that they would not make it, and maybe learn how it really is. Yeah, I'd like them to try to last a full year. I'm a little more harsh on that. I don't think they'd last a month, but I would challenge them to live our life for 1 full year.
And really, that's nothing, because when you consider that I have been forced out on a society's margins my whole life, when I did not deserve it, and, you know, which is why I'm now having to fucking beg all the time. Right?
Right.
Because,
everybody hates people for begging, but if we had the UBI and if we had proper health care, and just those two things, UBI and health care, and maybe like some housing options along with that, because we have enough housing available we should have no homeless people at all. Right?
There's like 6 or 7 vacant houses available for every individual homeless person in the United States. Not homeless family, homeless individual. When you've got 6 vacant houses for every homeless individual, there's a fucking problem. Oh yeah, Grace says prisoners make it better than we do. They get 3 meals a day. We maybe get 1 every 3 days. I struggle to afford 1 every day because I can't take my insulin on an empty stomach, and it's not.
We usually do 1 meal a day.
Yeah.
Dinner. And kind of like snack and stuff in the daytime, throughout the day. Like, I'll eat like an apple and some peanut butter.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Or whatever. But I need to get better about that. But anyway, yeah. So, so that's, I don't know, man. I guess that I don't really feel much better. I don't really feel very uplifted. But this explains why we're all so angry and so, so depressed and so angry. And it really the core of my point of having this conversation was to talk about trying to be there for each other. Like, please don't push each other away. If we need to vent to somebody, reach out to somebody that, like somebody once said to me that somebody that we helped a great deal, right? when we had money, we helped this person. And then they said to me later on, I needed like some help. I needed like, hey, can I borrow $20 for a couple days or so until I get my check? And then they said that they could no longer support us, and that we were a burden on them, and stuff like that. And like, I can never ask that person for help ever again.
That's what happened to me with one of the guys with James Zhang, who, reached out to me after seeing my interview with Yang Gang Russ, and he, promised, he swore up and down that he was going to see me through this. He was going to stick by me, even though it might be difficult, to help lift me up out of poverty. With him and Brian Stahl were going to build me a platform to help me, get to the point where I'd have an income where I wouldn't have to beg anymore, until I could at least get built up enough in my trading account to get out from underneath the pattern day trade rule, and to be able to trade properly with margin. And, between that and earning an income from like either Patreon or some other platform, that I wouldn't have to beg anymore. And then as soon as that guy, Tom Ray, started slandering me, boy, did they fucking turn turtle and hitch up to his wagon. And James threw that in my face after he said it would be no problem for him and Ryan and this other guy that, to make up, until I could get my Patreon up to, like, as a disabled diabetic, I would need, a UBI of $2,400 a month just to afford my medical needs and, and shit. And
yeah,
it's like not even 2 months into and he made such grandiose promise. And this is a guy who's a rich engineer. Okay, never went without anything. Will probably never have a taste of poverty anywhere near as what me and Grace have suffered. 2 months into it, he's realizing that there's actual life anchors and real fucking barriers. And that shit that might work for him or might work for Brian Stahl as privileged, able-bodied males who are young and not poor, not from poverty, but from the upper middle class, won't work for me. Because if they would have worked for somebody like me, I wouldn't still be fucking poor and marginalized at this late stage in my life after making superhuman efforts to lift myself up out of poverty. So, you know what? There's two people that I can never trust ever again, and that I will never ask for help. I can never talk to them. I couldn't even, and it's not a matter of not being able to forgive. It's a matter of,
those two guys?
It's a matter of,
hold on, I think Mikey's trying to say goodbye.
Who are those two guys?
James Zhang and Brian Stahl.
No. I'm saying, who are those two guys? Are they the part of that? That sounds very familiar. Who are they, sis? Do you know?
They were in Yang Gang.
Yes. Yeah, we have talked. I try not to use people's names when I'm talking about this kind of stuff here. But one, we have interacted with James before, Mikey, through Yang Gang Report. And so he was connected to Yang Gang Report for a little bit. And then also, Brian is one of our regular viewers. He is one of our regular viewers and regular commenters. And he lives here in Arizona too. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't think I've ever met him. I've only gone to one real life Yang Gang event ever. So I don't think I met Brian.
He got kicked out of the Humanity First movement Slack because he had been abusive to other members.
I really don't want to talk about other people like this on my thing. Like, I just really, you know what?
What the fuck? I got abused by these fucking guys, and I can't even tell you.
All I'm saying is that, like, no, you can tell the story. I just don't want to. I just don't want to.
I'm fucking honest. I'm saying that I will never trust.
I know you are. honey. I just don't want to use names.
And you know what? And when somebody says they care and I can talk to them, and then they fucking shut me down and tell me I can't talk.
No,
honestly,
honey,
really?
please listen. I just don't want to use
that
names.
person again.
You can say these guys. Say these guys. That's fine. Their names are already out there. I just, in this particular situation, I just would prefer not to use names. You can still tell your story, dude.
My
Still tell your story.
Trusting other people has been completely flushed down the fucking pan at this point. You know,
right? What they did to you was wrong.
And
I agree with you.
And not even 2 months into the thing, when they made these promises, and James is like, you like how you said that friend of yours said that you were a burden? Well, those were the same words that were used to me.
Yeah.
And it's
those words, that goes back to the beginning, where the power of words. That is one of the most soul-crushing words that you could ever call somebody.
And this was from the person, and this was from a person who was all gung-ho, and he was going to make me his project to fucking help fix their life as a poor, marginalized older lady who's disabled, who's a human trafficking survivor, who had been shut out of everything in life.
Right.
We now see what that promise was worth. My capacity for trusting other people is gone. You know what? There's 2 people I trust. Angelo's one. You know? Because too many people have said they cared and said that, you know, I could talk to them. And then it's like, okay. And then I try to fucking tell them what I went through. And then it's, oh, shut up. You can't talk this. No. I tell the fucking truth. And I have no problem naming names, because I will call somebody out to their fucking face in public for fucking up. I don't have anything left except my truth. And I'll be goddamned if anybody's going to tell me that I can't even tell that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Speak your mind. Say what you want.
I'm done.
We're going on 3 hours anyway. So like, I'm kind of ready to call it to a close.
I'm just saying.
Way super duper off topic.
You wonder why people
normally this is not on my personal page necessarily. Okay, so I try to be careful and mindful.
And I thought this was like your own hang thing. But, you know,
I am on the Yang report also still.
But don't tell me I can talk about something. And then I try to tell you exactly how bad and how shitty I was done by 2 people. Well, mostly one person.
Okay, I'm very, very sorry. I'm sorry that I said that. I was trying to remain on some level of professionalism. That's all.
I think it's very professional to tell the truth and to not allow people to harm
I'm sorry that I said it.
I think it's professional to not let somebody get a free pass for harming somebody who was vulnerable, who fucking trusted them. I think that's professional. Because I would never fucking promise, you know, for example, Grace, something that I wasn't sure I could deliver on, and then turn around and, in order to cover up for my own inadequacies, victim blame her and make her feel like eating a fucking bullet by the time I got done doing that. But that's how I got treated. That's how I got treated by a couple of fucking guys. One of whom is your buddy.
I didn't say either of them were our buddies. I said that we had been in a conversation with one of them, and one of them is one of our regular viewers. That is what I said. I didn't call anybody a buddy. So
I tell the
because of I knew the first name, James. I remembered that. I forgot that the other one I forgot the second name. So, like, of course, I'm going to take all of those things into account, the way that they treated you. Like, I'm not going to have those people on my show. I'm not going to give them a platform.
An economically privileged John who deliberately stalked me down because I am a trafficking survivor, specifically because he was a John and he wanted to make sure he destroyed the only support network that I even had, that after not having any support network my entire life, and those two guys who claim to be such great friends ended up hitching their wagon to him. So my capacity for trusting anyone at this point anymore is gone. I trust, there's two people that I trust. One of them is Angelo. I would trust Angelo with my life.
I understand.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I didn't deserve that. I did not deserve it. Nobody.
I apologize with all of my being. I apologize. I was just... We usually just try to leave names out. That's all. In certain situations. That's all.
Well, vulnerable people in the community should be protected. Vulnerable people don't need to be harmed any worse. I'm talking about really vulnerable people in general that were looking to Yang Gang for hope, that they finally found people that had their fucking back. It's not good optics. Just FYI.
All right. I am very, very sorry. All right. Okay. So here we are at 3 hours. I have to get going. Thank you for joining us, Mikey. Quiet as always. Do you have any parting words? You've just been the silent guy in the middle.
Good night, Yang Gang.
Ciao.
All right.
It's Italian for goodbye. Ciao.
All right.
It's also Italian for hello.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.